Okay, we are on Daf Ayin Zayin Ois Gimel. Now we have a rule that is recorded in the Zohar that there is not a drop of rain that comes from above that is not met by two drops that elevate from down below. Those two drops are Chesed and Gevura. Now there are 5 Gevuras, and they are 5 times the term that fire or Aish is used. There is Isha, her fire, Aish Hashem, the fire of Hashem. There has to be this level of Aish that's from below to above, because one spirit evokes another spirit, as the Zohar says. The left hand is under my head. This is a reference to the face of the ox in Ezekiel's vision, that on the left side that elevates the Jewish people, the source, the Knesset Yisrael, the source of the neshamas, and it lifts it up to under my head through the level of Gevura, the level of the left, the fire of the soul, which brings to a bitul that is beyond the Hislavis, like it says in Yecheskel that after the fire, the Aish, there is the small, still voice. It says that Hashem is not in the fire, in reference to, again, that pasuk in Yecheskel. So the Zohar explains it depends which fire. It depends which type of rash, of excitement. Nevertheless, even in the Aish Hashem, there is still going to be this superior level of the small, still voice. Because Aish is in the world of Bria, where the Srafim reside. The small, still voice is in Atzilus. And within Atzilus, you also have the subworlds of Atzilus, Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya. And again, this is what is alluded to in the phrase, there's fire and there's fire, Isaish ve'Isaish. In the Bria level within Atzilus, and the small, still voice, which is even higher, which is the level of Atzilus within Atzilus. However, there still has to be this Aish, which is the approach mimata lamaila, and then there can be this level of bitul, like the level that is described as the Kohanim and the Levim. And this is what it means when it says lachmi laashi, my bread, my fire. My bread is that the Jewish people sustain Hashem, just as food sustains the person. And my fire, that through this Arusa de Lasata, the Aish Hashem, we get the my fire, Aish with the Yud, that comes down from above. That is Karboni. Karboni is Aleph Taf, which is the combination of all the letters from Aleph until Taf. My karbonos become kroivim, they become within me, like we know the word karbonos means within or close. That it should rest within the person, a revelation of Hashem, the Orein Seif Mamish, through Lachmi Leisha, that from the Aish Hey, we make the Aish Yud. Again, the Shem Ma, which is brought down within it. And this is that level of a malchus or expression of Atzilus. That Shem Ban, for all of the Jewish people, are Banai, my children, Ben Banai. Then it's described, the Karbonos, as Reach Nichoichi, my pleasant aroma, from below to above. It arouses the level of Moichin da Abba, that in Golis it's asleep, and this Reach, like a smelling salts, reawakens it. Nechoichai, it is comforting. This is from the term of resting, that it brings down the level of bitul, again, that small, still voice, that is higher even than the level described as Aish with a Yud at the end. So you have Aish with a Hey, Aish with a Yud, and called Dmama Daka. Tishmeru, the pasuk says. How do we guard this? This is guarded, as we described earlier, through Mishnah, which fleshes out the Tanakh, which becomes the keli for the revelation of Orein Soif and the level of Aish with a Yud. Like we say, whoever engages in Torah, Hashem learns with him. My words, which I place in your mouth, literally, that this is as Karbonai. This is the Avos, this is Chagas, this is the Merkava, this is Moshe, this is Bitul, the vision on the throne, the vision of a person, all quotes from Yecheskel, the vision or the stature of the rider on the chariot. This is Moshe, this is Bitul, this is the vision of a person, this is the rider, this is Yesod Abba, V'anachnu ma. And how does a person reach such a level of Bitul? So the pasuk continues, because Hashem instructs Moshe, Tzabis b'nei Yisrael, that the level of Moshe should come down and become attached and unified with the Jewish people. And through this, V'amarta aleihem, you should say it to them, it is an amira, a level of Abba, that it should be, my words are placed in your mouth, to bring close to me b'mayadai. Moyed is from the term to make known, nayadati, asher lo ya'ada, all terms of awareness, knowledge, understanding, unity, connection, that all of these hamshachas should be from the level of Shabbos, kodesh hi lachem, the level of Abba, but it's effectuated through the Yom Tov, Mikra Kodesh, which we declare as holy, which is more the quality of the mother, the recipient who develops what is given to her, but it's only through the investiture of Abba in Ima. And then we talk about the level of Pesach, which is from below to above, the level of Avram, Shachris, which begins with the declaration that Hashem is the creator, the Psuki de Zimra. We talk all the way up to the world of Yetzirah and Yetzer Or before the Kriya Shema, and we only then, as a result of our efforts, come to the total bittul of Shemana Esrei, which is not the case in Mincha, which is from the term menucha or resting. We're in Amid Beis now, where all you go directly into the Shemana Esrei. And in Ma'ariv, which also has the Kriya Shema, a build up to the Shemana Esrei, but it's not as lengthy because it is the quality of Yaakov, as we described, who subsumed within him is both his father Yitzchak, Mincha, and his grandfather Avram, which was Shachris. And this is why it is Moyed, like the pasuk that in Yeshaya that says, the kalkala ta'ada kaleha, the kakala ta'ada kaleha, like a bride who was adorned with her jewelry, which is a form of, again, jewelry relevant to the quality of keser. This concludes this part of the Maimer. Now there is a kitzer that we're explaining the pasuk in our Parsha of Tzav is Bnei Yisrael. Tzav means to connect the level of Moshe together with Bnei Yisrael, that he should then relay it to us, through which Moshe uses his power of speech to unify us, that we should become one with him. And this is what achieves the S carbonate, the S being the letters Aleph through Taf, the carbonate meaning that which is internalized and brought close. Like it says, my words that I place in your mouth, HaKadosh Baruch Hu learns together with us. And through this, it is Lachmi, Leishai, my bread, my fire, that's the Eish Yud, the level of the Eish that Hashem gives to us from Seviv Kol Almin, to elevate the Eish that's within our animalistic soul, the level of Eish Hey, that this is drawn down through the Jewish people providing Hashem with his parnasa. This means that the unification between the benefactor and the beneficiary, the mashpia and the makabel, like we talk about, the day of our wedding was the day of Matan Torah, because the Yud is the mashpia. With Yud, the world was created. The Hey is the makabel, like it says, with the Hey, this world was created. And this is the idea of the reach nichechi, the pleasant aroma. Or another explanation when it says as carbonai, that this is S, the letters that are within me. This is through, again, my bread, my fire. That through is Sarusa de la Santa, which we draw down in Torah, this loftiest of levels. We have the reich nichechi, the drawing down of the small, still voice that is higher from the level even of Eish Yud. And then there has to be Tishmeru. We have to guard it. And the guarding is via the Mishnah, that it should be guarded within the heart of the person, that this Eish Yud, that should not be expelled. And this is all the level of Dibor, which is Torah study, regarding which it says, my offering you should guard. And the level of Machshava, which is davening, like it says, Lahakriv li, to bring close to me. The drawing down of Orein Seif and Chachma, the level of Shabbos Kodesh. In Mayadai, the Yom Tif, the three Mayadim, which are declared as holy, that we declare them. And we draw down this level through the davening in the weekdays, like the Chulin that is made in sanctity. And therefore, as Karbonai is the Yichud of Zun, and we bring it within the Karbonais is the Yichud of Father, that is what Hashem gives us. And our response, that is the feminine, the maternal. And this is like it says on the pasuk, Eila Pekude HaMishkan. These are the counts of the Mishkan, the unity of Vav and Hey, Mishkan HaEdos, the Mishkan of testimony uses the same word Mishkan twice because it's referencing two levels, the level of unifying Vav with Hey through our reattachment of Bnei Yisrael to Hashem via the construction of the Mishkan, and the Yichud of Yud and Hey. And this is that level that is called Li, mine, Hashem's, because it is the unity of father and mother that is rooted in Atik and Ein Sof. And even though the Korban is primarily the drawing down of Mayin Dechudin from Zah, like it says in Yigeras HaKodesh Siman Chav Ches, nevertheless, we say Vayesha Hashem turned al Hevel, that is the turn toward that was Hevel's offering, that is the drawing down of the Shin Ayin Nohirin rivers. That ends this mimer. On Omid Gimel, it begins a new mimer, again based on the same pasuk. Tzavis b'nei Yisrael v'amarta aleihem es korban lahmi laashai v'amarta lehem zeh yisha asher takrivu es hakeves echad tas b'beker chulu. This is the Korbanos instruction in the Parsha. And we have to understand, why does the pasuk say the word v'amarta twice? It says, command b'nei Yisrael v'amarta aleihem, and then it says v'amarta lehem again twice. So also there's another distinction. At first, the pasuk says asher takrivu, and then it says tasa. Why does one time it refer to the Korbanos as being brought close, and another time as being effectuated, tasa? Takrivu was also plural, and tasa is singular. The point is, like it says, and it's recorded in the Medrash. Anytime the pasuk uses the word tzav, it means for immediate and eternal. And that's why it says it twice. V'amarta aleihem immediately. That's the idea of the Korbanos that were brought in the time of the Beis Hamikdash. And again, v'amarta lehem, tell to them again, that is in future generations via the daven. Now, this requires further explanation. How, in fact, is it that davening can parallel the daily sacrifices, which were lambs of 1 year? And davening is the request of Rachmanis. How is that an exchange for the Korbanos? Another question. Regarding Korbanos, it says a pleasing aroma, reich nechoyach, a term of nachas ruach, like it says regarding Noach's Korban, that Hashem smelled the reich nechoyach. So what reich nechoyach is there from the Korbanos? The point is, we have established that the ultimate purpose of a neshama to come into this world, to be invested in a body, even invested within an animalistic soul, is a descent so that it will elevate. You read the Tzarech. And before this world was created, there was only Hashem and his name. Shmoi means Hashem's Ratzon. It's the same gematria, which is the source of all that Hashem does and gives life to all of creation, because this is in fact God's basic, stripped down, essential will to be Melech Shmoi Nikra, that we should declare him as king. Like we described, Yachid Chayalamim Melech from the davening, that Hashem is exclusive, Yachid and Miyuchad Chayalamim, and the life force that God puts into the world is only the expression of his quality as Melech. And before the world was created, there was only Hashem and his name. That this is the level of Malchus that was included within Ein Sof Mamish. It is called the Or Ein Sof, and that is, this is the Or and the Ziv, and this is the Or that is subsumed within the Ma'or itself. And after the world was created, it expressed this Or and the Ziv to give life to the creations Mi'ayin Mamish to Yesh through the Seder Shtalshus in the Madregas of cause and effect. Until you get down to this physical world, which is mamash yesh, and something that appears at least to be completely separate from Hashem, which is a great descent relative to the Or and the Ziv that is included within the Or Ein Sof. And the tachlis of the Yerida is for the Tzarech Aliyah, that there should be a yesh, it should be then sort of brought back to its ayin, that the yesh should be batal and subsumed within Ein Sof. And this is the ultimate cause regarding which it says the Li of Yason, to which Hashem created for his play, that it becomes the schoik and the play and the ched b'lamaila through the bittul of yesh into ayin. That there should be a creation from ayin to yesh is the quality of bria. Like it says, the chachma comes from ayin. And chachma is the very beginning of the expression of the creation of the worlds, which is not the case when you go from yesh back into ayin. That's something new. That's a change in nature. And the primary pleasure and joy is from change and something new. Like they would bring some sort of innovation or joy or even laughter to a king. And this is the novelty of it that brings about this level of simcha. Now, down here in this world, the annulment of yesh into ayin is the annulment of gashmius into ruchnius. If we dig deeper, lemaila, it's also the level of the ruchnius, which is a level of yesh, that there is no blade of grass down here that doesn't have a mazel that's causing it to grow, and the mazel receives only from the sediment of the Eifanim, and the Eifanim receive from the Chayes HaKodesh of the Merkavim, the Chayes from the Srofim. That the mazel is the level of yesh relative to the Eifanim, and the Eifanim to the Chayes HaKodesh, regarding which it says in the Mishnah in Shabbos, called Bali Hashir Yetzin Bashir. Now, in context, that means any animal that is chained can go out with its chain. But the word that in this context is translated as chain is also the word for music, shir, shira, and zimra are levels of, or the characteristic of simcha and tainik, which is you go out of your ordinary way, the level of the kalim that ordinarily restrain you. Like we have established that all of life force that is drawn down to these creations is through Iris and kalim, and through shir, that the malachim sing, we go out of our kalim to be subsumed within the infinite of Hashem, where oiz v'chedva is in its place. Now, the ikar bitul of yesh back into ayin is through the karbonis. We're now in Amidalid, that the nefesh abahamis is a manifestation of the ox, which is on the left side. And through the karbonis, it becomes elevated and subsumed within its origin, within the pnei shor of the merkav. And therefore, there was song associated with the karbonis. And from there, it elevated up to the highest of levels, all the way to the lion-shaped fire that consumed the karbonis. That just like down here in the physical manifestation, it's a kohen who brings the karbonis. The kohen is the man of chesed, so that it arouses this quality of chesed. The lion that consumes the karbonis of the highest level of chesed, the right hand that brings close to be subsumed within our insight. So too, when it comes to tefillah, as we know, that Michal is the angel of kindness, who brings the neshamas of the Jewish people up on the altar. Like it says, the fire of the Jewish people in their prayer. And down here, this is the investiture in the physical body through this abundant love that comes from above through davening, to elevate and to attach the nefesh of the Jewish people to Hashem, and to attach Ein Sof Mamash. And this is Lachmi Laishai, meaning the Eish Shali, my fire, that burns within me, that is the fire, that is the level that is described in Nach as this burning like a burning flame, a fiery flame within the heart, that is this constant longing, this intense fire to be subsumed within the Ein Sof, because of a person's grasp of its infinity, its gedula, which is in the world of Bria, that is higher than the world of Yetzirah and Asiyah. And the carbon becomes lechem, the bread, because again, there is no blade of grass down here that grows without having the mazel, that receives only from the residue of the Eifanim, and the Eifanim from the Chayes HaKodesh of their Merkava, and the Chayes from the Srofim. And therefore, when the carbon is elevated above and is subsumed in the level of Srofim, it becomes this characteristic describable as sustenance or bread, like it is the bread that becomes digested within the human stomach, and it becomes his very flesh and his sustenance, and it adds power and strength. So too, the offering, the korban, becomes digested and subsumed within the chayes and the srofim, and it becomes their moza, and it adds koyach and chayes and the srofim to elevate them to become unified completely mamish within the king. And how is this possible? That this can be done when we bring the korban from this lamb. The point is that even though the chayes of the nefesh abahamis comes from the level of the ox of the merkava, and that's where it goes to, but Hashem chose sheep. Why? Because the sheep is the voice of compassion, the midah of Yaakov, and it has the wool from whence we make clothing, as the pasuk supports, that from the wool of clothing we are warmed. This is the idea of the leather, which is the idea of the firmament, from whence we draw down the various letters, like the hairs that pierce through the skin, regarding which it says in the Gemara that the Malach Sandalphon takes and ties the crowns to his master from the combination of letters of davening. and this is described in great length and sort of beyond the scope of this mimer. However, the flesh and the fat and the blood and the sinews and the bones of the Tamid are elevated and subsumed within the Mizbeach. But the leather with the wool is given to the Kohen, like it says in the Pasuk that it is given to the Kohen, the leather is given to the Kohen. Why? Because it cannot be subsumed with the Nefesh HaBahamis like the flesh and the fats and the blood and the bones and the sinews. And that's why it's not burned with them. They are all given to the Kohen, the one who is the Makriv, like it is in its totality with the wool. And therefore, we explain the idea of Basar, Gidim, and Atzmeis, Lamaila, Derech Mashal. We understand that it's written in the Sifrei HaChacham that the creation of the Atzmeis comes from the brain, and the creation of the flesh from the blood, that it resides in the heart, from whence you create the flesh, like the statement in the Gemara that from the white of the Zera, it creates the bones. Now, the heart is the home field, it is the residence, the mishkan of the midos, Ab and Yira, which are the fiery blood, the boiling blood within the physical body. There's a negative type of good love, where a person is just desirous of material things and stubbornness. And above, there's also a positive form that is embodied in Michal with his passionate love. Then there's the level of Gavriel, which is the level of the flesh that is drawn from the blood and the heart. Awareness, understanding, das and asaga, that we comprehend the infinity of Hashem, each person according to their ability and according to their level, is the atzmis that come from the mayach. Now, even though the midos are according to our comprehension, because as the pasuk says, according to a person's intellect, is he able to be praised or admired or appreciated? A child according to his childishness, an adult according to his adulthood. Nevertheless, not everybody can understand the concept as it's invested in the midos, because the hasaga and the infinity of Ein Sof is like its name implies. Ein Sof. We're now in Daf Ayin Ches. To the highest level without end, and to the lowest level without objective. There's no beginning, there's no conclusion. Hashem's rule is in every generation. All of the different descriptions of Hashem's infinite stature in time and place and so on. If all of our understanding would only be in the midas of the lev, we would have no capacity for the midas of Ava and Yira to be grasping of this hasaga. They have to become batal, like it says in the Gemara in Sanhedrin. He touches his small finger there and it burns up. But the grasping that is invested in the midas is the level of just a tiny bit of the mayach that is drawn down to be invested in the heart, the source of the place or the residence of the midas. And these are the gidin and the orkin, that the sinews and the tendons that hold together the bone with the flesh. Like it says in the pasuk, to make known to people Hashem's might. This is the gevura and the tzimtzum, which is comparable to these sinews as we described.